So, welcome. We're going to talk about SUSE Studio a little bit. My name is James Mason, and I am a SUSE Studio developer. I work for, well, that's a hard question to answer this week, but I work for Novell, and now I think I work for the SUSE business unit under the attachment group, but you'll have to talk to somebody else about that. You can catch me on Twitter at bear454, or I blog very occasionally at bear454.com. And so, how many of you guys have used SUSE Studio? Anybody here besides the award-winning Brian?
Wow,
yes.
award-winning.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, SUSE Studio is a web-based tool for creating your own Linux distribution. We use a lot of open source tools. Studio itself is not a complete open source project. It's a Novell project that's available for sale if you have 6 figures that you like to spend on building virtual appliances. If not, it's available for free online. We use Ruby on Rails for a core stack, and what we let you do is take either a SUSE Linux Enterprise or an OpenSUSE base, customize it with either your own software or software from the OpenSUSE build service, upload your own files into your configuration, tweak it, customize it to the point of, at a high level, doing some advanced customization with point and click. At a low level, we'll let you inject scripts for first boot and every boot, or some audio-esque configurations. And then we take the whole mash and we push it through a Kiwi build service to construct the actual images for you. So you don't have to do any building yourself. Once you have it built, we'll let you do what's called a test drive. You can actually run your image live. Oh my gosh, I don't need that many. You can actually run your image live in the browser, see what your appliance that you just built looks like. We use KVM on the back end to launch that up, and then a little Flash-based VNC in the browser to let you actually see and interact with your appliance, and then you can round trip from there, from the test drive. We'll let you see file changes that you make, push them back into your image, and so you can do some iteration on your appliance in the browser without ever having to download anything. Once you get it just the way you want, we have a download and deploy routine where we support as many environments as we possibly can. In a nutshell, you can build an ISO, raw hard disk images of a variety of virtual images, or deploy direct to EC2. So that's how Studio works in a nutshell. Does anybody have any questions architecturally about our awesomeness?
I do have a question about doubts about the architecture.
Yeah.
How hard, or is there any plan to make it more sane to get proprietary drivers in there so you can boot initially with them?
Well, with the Studio, since you're building your own image, you can upload your proprietary drivers and use them as you like. It depends on the quality of the drivers, and it's just a matter of getting people to open source. At this point, I mean, that's a waiting game with the kernel developers and the hardware developers. But I mean, in this last revision for OpenSUSE, and I assume that Ubuntu 11, whatever animal they call it, supports it as well. We got the new Broadcom open source drivers. The Nuvo and Radeon video drivers are coming along very well. So you're getting a lot better experience out of the box, all on open source, than you ever have before.
Plus, you can put any sort of binary software you want onto it, and then have a script set to run on first login. So if you want to have it like reconfigure a set of patches or anything like that on first login, it works like that.
That was a great question.
Oh,
And I'm a terrible shot. But anyway, I don't know if you notice, we have a ton of little plushy penguins, so if you do have a good question, I'll try to avoid the equipment here, the gear.
and don't take out the camera.
Okay, so where was I? So what can you do with Studio? Our top 3 uses for Studio, what we get most people doing with Studio is creating custom desktops, building and deploying virtual servers or physical servers, and doing software demos. So as far as the custom desktop goes, we give you a lot of tools to create a customized desktop. Out of the box, we let you start out picking either a GNOME or KDE desktop. You can also go back and use some of our images to do LXDE or XFCE, or start as low as like TWM or IceWM for a basic configuration, and then work up your desktop from there, adding software and making configurations and getting the desktop that you exactly want configured up, and then create a live disk of it or a disk image and download it. The beauty comes not in the one time going through, but in kind of, the 100 paper cuts or 1,000 paper cuts that you do every time you do an upgrade or an install. All the things that you want to fine tune for your own setup. Maybe you use a different browser. You don't like Firefox, you uninstall Firefox every time you install a distribution because you hate the pre-installed browser. You can put Chrome on there, put Chromium, put Iceweasel, I don't know, whatever it is that you want. Boy, the network's fast in here. So, wallpaper, anything that you can configure, you can go in and configure on your own in that system. Starting with the basics and moving from there. So we give you an early scratch for where you want to start, and then let you make it your own. And some of the configurations we see, we get some crazy configurations come out there. I'll go over some of the specific appliances, but suffice to say that if you wanted to create a desktop that had 17 browsers in it, that's no problem.
Wow.
You can do a lot with it.
How exactly did that one not win the award? 'Cause that's awesome.
We think it's awesome, but it's a matter of everything that's awesome. Actually, he's fallen behind a little bit, and that's kind of the thing. He's missing a few fresh versions. If he'd kept it up, it would probably have won awards. But our biggest market on this is virtual servers. The idea that you can create a customized server, build your server stack, and then deploy it with some kind of consistency. We see this used in, I've worked with companies to do deployments of web farms. What we try to do is, instead of building each one on the fly and kind of customizing it, and they end up being a little different, you come up with a good rock solid image, write a few scripts to make it easy to do your deployments, and then you can build your own web farm up for there with a great deal of consistency and control. OpenSUSE and SUSE Linux Enterprise have always been really strong on the development server side, so we give you a lot of advantages there in terms of being able to start with the server, and build the stack up very quickly and easily. We support all of the same patterns that we put on the DVD, so if you want to do a lamp stack, your lamp stack is one click. If you want to do Rails, it's one click. If you want to do, I don't know, whatever you want to do with it. If you're going to run a Samba server and some DNS and DHCP, so that's 3 clicks. So we try to make it as easy as we can by using the tools we already have placed and that strength on OpenSUSE and SLED to give you the tools that are real easy. So again, there's your LAMP server. Bam. So I want to do some VoIP. I'm going to run, or let's see if we can do, I'm going to build a tablet PC. I want my customized tablet PC. I want all this little cool screen integrated utilities. Yes?
One of the questions I see a lot in the chat room is, the chat room was wondering if you can make builds for ARM. Is that possible?
You cannot build directly for ARM in Studio, but we're really strong on trying to be open sourcey. even though it's a closed product. We're all very big on SUSE. We're all open source developers. So we try to make sure your data is your own. One thing that you can do, and we see some people do, since we're only supporting x86, 32, and 64-bit in Studio, we'll see people build their appliances in Studio and then export to Kiwi. They'll export a Kiwi configuration, then they can take the Kiwi over to the OpenSUSE build service, import the Kiwi, build for ARM, build for PowerPC. We're on the enterprise side, we're launching support for IBM S390. So, yeah, so the platform is getting bigger and bigger. So that's one of the options to get around it. And the idea is that you can even, if you've already started doing customization through Kiwi or through some other tool, you can import your configurations in, tune it in Studio, and then take your configurations back out and go back on about your business. So there's no lock-in at all. The configuration's really open and easy to work with. And we do, I mean, if you just want to see it in one click what your configuration looks like, I mean, this is more a human view than a real data view. But I mean, we try to show you exactly where your software is coming from. So these are the repositories that are linked to. These are the packages that you've required. These are the files that you've attached for a logo and a background, and then any of the internal configurations. I mean, we try to give this all to you in one view and make it really easy to see what you got going on, where it came from, where it's going to. And when we do publish as well, we do a security summary to say, hey, this is what somebody installed that isn't standard. And then if there were any executables or custom scripts, we let you know right up front what you're dealing with these appliances. So that was a little off track, but that's all right. Software demos. We get a ton of, yes.
You were just showing the security updates that it was suggesting. If you create a build today and then come back 6 months from now and there's been a bunch of updates to the software, whatever that you've got on there, does it also give you suggested upgrades to those items as well?
Yes. By default, all the appliances integrate the update repos. So you can go back if you're publishing something on a regular basis and you don't want to have it online, you need something that's isolated, you can go build periodically, just do a rebuild, and it's automatically going to pull any of the updated packages, any of the security updates, and rebuild with that. So that's automatic behavior. So we get a lot of interest from software demo people. Are there anybody here that develops software besides Brian? Custom software? How many of you guys have downloaded software to try out that you weren't sure you were going to use it, but you just wanted to see how it works? All kinds of people, right? And how many of you were nervous about this is going to screw up my system? Something's not going to go right. Right. Okay. So this is a common problem for people who develop software. How do I let you try my software out without breaking anything? And our solution to that with Studio is build the full desktop. Give somebody the experience, tailor everything, upload your custom software into it, and give people a live disk image that they can boot. So they can boot off your disk image, never touch your hard drive, feel the software, use it, know how it works without changing anything on the computer for the person who's trying it out. So this is something that we get a lot of interest with people in, to be able to try that out and create that experience that users don't have any fear of trying out some new software, regardless of how invasive it is to the system. So one of the things we really focused on with Studio is trying to create usability. Linux is an amazing distribution. The flexibility is just unheard of, unparalleled, but it's not always easy. And some things can be really hard. How many of you guys have ever tried to do a custom boot splash? Like the first screen that you see, did it work?
No.
Did it work?
Well, after many hours of hacking, yes.
Okay, did it work? No? Okay. So this is our preview of what your grub menu, boot splash, and login screens are going to look like. And let's change the wallpaper. And I want the penguin logo. And you know what? I actually want something different for wallpaper. So let's try out. We'll make that the logo, huh? There we go. That's a nice wallpaper. So I just picked out a JPEG that I had on my desktop and I'm uploading it. And now it's available in my set. I click and there is my grub menu, my splash screen, and my login screen as they will look in my appliance. And that's how much work it takes to customize those graphics.
Already it looks better than Fedora.
Let's get rid of that logo because that logo looks out of place. We'll just use Distro because Distro is awesome. Okay, so we're trying to really focus strongly on usability. We have a lot of design guys on our team, and they're really, really hardcore about this button doesn't really tell you what you should be doing in visual hierarchies and all kinds of weird stuff like that that I don't care about. But the long and short of it is they try really hard to make stuff easy. And we try on the back end to do things that people have never had an easy time doing before. So that's personalization. Installing software. You know, we can argue all day long about what's a good software system and apt-get versus RPM or whatever RPM tool you use, Yum or Rug or Zipper or one of the 40,000 or Pacman or whatever. But nothing beats point and click. So we'll go over to the software tab, and like I said before, I want a lamp stack. So now they're out of order. I'll just search. We try to abstract out the concept, even though we're relying on RPMs and repositories. We try to really take you away from that perspective, give you everything that's available in the build service in one interface, and make it as easy as possible. So I'm going to build a LAMP server. I will click Add. And there we go. So my packages just got added. My pattern is ballooned up quite a bit, but I am ready to go. Now if I want to go back, and there's probably some recommendations that go along with that, so I will go to recommended packages and see what kind of recommendations go along with that. What's that? Blazing fast internet. Yeah. So, oh yeah, there's a lot of recommendations there. That's funny. We probably better just add those in. Patterns. So there was my LAMP server, and it's only requiring these two little packages, but it's got a lot of recommended packages, so we'll go ahead and add all the recommended packages. And they're suggesting a few extras for Postgres and PHP, so we'll go ahead and add those too. And you can see the stack of what's actually going into those patterns down here. The idea was to kind of take what SUSE has done with patterns already and take it a little farther and make it more usable, give you as much flexibility and choice as you want in determining what software that you put in your appliance, and to try to abstract away some of the concepts. With the build service being able to build Linux system-based RPMs, Fedora-specific RPMs, OpenSUSE and SLES-specific RPMs, apt-get, Debs for Debian and for Ubuntu and whatever else. And they're even doing some preliminary work with building Windows executables through the build service now. Yeah. So The idea is that somebody building custom software, we want the build service to be a great place to put it, and then the build service is really accessible here from the software sources. You don't have to worry about what format it's in or where it ended up, because it's going to be available for Studio.
That means the coder only has to code once and export to many?
There's still a fair amount of work with getting the configurations just right. But it's just kind of one of those games where once you've got your configuration files right, they will stay around. And the build service is beautiful in terms of rebuilding. It does dependency checks and triggers. So if you get your spec file working properly for building your RPMs and you upload a fresh tarball of your source, it's going to automatically rebuild and issue updates. For everything. If you depend on a library that gets updated, it will rebuild to use the new dependency. So it keeps everything fresh and current. And then those updates also roll into Studio. So software is getting easier to deal with. And then the last thing that we've really focused really aggressively on is database servers. Setting up a database server is just far too complicated, and anyone who's been on Windows has probably used Access. How many of you guys have used Access on Windows?
Yeah.
Okay, it's not great. The performance is horrible. It's not very reliable, but how easy it is it to create a database? It's just boom, right? Doing something like that on Linux, you can use SQLite and do it in your desktop, but the tools aren't great for it. You really want to run a real database server. That's what we do. So on Studio, we've tried to take that concept and try to make that easy too. So Postgres or MySQL. You can pick your favorite, check your box. It'll add the dependencies if they're not necessary, give you some good instructions on how to dump an existing database and upload it, and let you create your user accounts for the database all in one spot. So that'll be done, and that'll be compiled in your image. And all you have to do is just check the box and follow the bouncing ball. So we're trying to take some of the hard work and make it a lot easier. But after that, the next step is being able to actually do something with it. And so you've got this thing configured, and you could have done that yourself. You could have handwritten a Kiwi file on your desktop. You could have done a SUSE install and then saved it to an AutoYAS configuration and reused that on another system. But that doesn't necessarily get you all the way there. You could be producing a kickstart file by hand, but again, that's just a file. That's just some instructions. It's not what you really want. So what we wanted is to try to make deployment itself easy. So we support a lot of virtual formats right out of the box. We're going to let you build your appliance directly to a VMDK to use in VMware or VirtualBox or on top of KVM. We'll let you build to an OVF file. You can build to a Zen-guest file, and these all include all the instructions necessary for the virtual systems to get it going. Over on our server configuration here, our appliance configuration, you can pop in your memory settings, your disk space, your swap partitions. You can define LVM setups if you want, whether you're going to use PAE on a 32-bit kernel. We'll even let you chuck in the VMware driver for CD-ROM support. And one click to turn a live disk into an installable disk. So the build formats, we give you as many virtual formats as you can for going to virtual. And this is great, especially people trying things out. They want virtual. Even easier than running a live disk and rebooting into it is popping something up in VirtualBox and seeing how it works, how it feels. And especially with like the 3D acceleration in VirtualBox now, this stuff feels nice and fast. On the server side, that's just ridiculously important to be able to support Zen and VMware right out of the box. Just create your images, put them on your server, and it's pie to start up those VMs. Yeah, we'll get there. So the next format, the next thing that we wanted to do in terms of an easy format is live media. Live media is not always great to work with, and it can be really tricky. But thanks to the guys that are working on Kiwi, we've got some great live media support. And so what we'll let you do for live is you can produce a live ISO, and depending on size, that's either going to belong on a CD or DVD. You can also create what's called a preload ISO. And this is kind of a goofy little thing. Your live ISO is run my desktop live. It needs a fair amount of RAM to do it because everything's kind of running fast and there's some compression, so the experience isn't great. And if you're using this as an installation media, it's not a good solution. If you want people to see and feel your desktop, it's great. But if you want to create installation media, that's not what you want. So preload ISO is something we've launched recently. And preload ISO boots into text mode, and it asks you one question. Do you want me to wipe out your hard drive and install this image? Yes or no? So, and then it copies the images onto the machine, you reboot, your image is installed. So it's literally a one-question installer for your Linux system.
Oh, big and cheap,
Yep. Nice and scary, yeah. But if you're in a corporate environment and you need to roll out a consistent desktop, you got your media, your corporate software is already set up, everything's ready to go. Pop it in a machine, say yes, done. It's faster than Ghost. It's faster. I mean, it's super easy and easy to maintain. So, and then the next thing we're starting to move into is hosting. I don't know if you guys know, but a few months ago we inked a deal with Amazon to start running SUSE Linux Enterprise on EC2. So in addition to their core Linux thing, or being able to do some custom AMIs, you can also just buy a SUSE Linux Enterprise server instance on EC2 and work with it. So going along with that, we've added tools in Studio that build on top of that. So you can either build up an OpenSUSE or a SUSE Linux Enterprise instance in Studio and go to EC2. Now, when we say go to EC2, most people think build an EC2 image. Well, that was our first step, was build an EC2 image, but we've tried to go beyond that. And what we've launched recently is that you can actually manage your EC2 images and deploy directly from Studio. Now, I know this probably isn't the greatest time to talk about EC2 after last week's complete disaster, but it's still an amazing tool. And, you know, we had a lot of trouble grief here in the US, but Europe and Asia were hopping along just fine. So.
I have Basil just start paying a sales tax, he wouldn't have so much trouble.
So you can build any image you want and send it to EC2?
Yeah. Obviously, that's not a great solution for a desktop because it's going to be kind of slow, but it's great for a server. And in terms of consistency, if you're looking at a server farm or you're a startup, you can go out to EC2 on their free service, launch a micro instance, run it free for a year, get everything tuned, and as you're growing, grow that to a medium, grow that to a large, launch 6 more, and do some round-robin work on it. So it's easy to grow. Yeah, everything. Well, they're free. Is everything free for a year? You get like 15. I don't know. You get a big pile of everything for free for a year. So, but you can see this is an Etherpad appliance to set up, and we build all the formats for it. So for the EC2, we've got the upload to EC2 option instead of our test drives, because you can't test drive an EC2 really. And what that's looking for is your access key and your secret key for the Amazon API, and then which region you want to deploy to by default. Probably not US East, but so put it in, you click Save Changes, it'll check your credentials, and then it'll actually push the image over to EBS and deploy an instance, and then you've got management tools in here to start and stop it and update it from within Studio. So you can build your custom server that you want to put on EC2, test drive it out in your disk format, tune it, get it just the way you want, deploy it to EC2 without ever having to download the image at all. So, some fun stuff. I've been working with Linode as well to get their OpenSUSE and SUSE Linux deployments a little bit more fine-tuned. Their support is a little bit older, but they're really excited about Studio, and we're looking at doing more of an architected development environment where we may have more plugins. But in the meantime, there's a how-to that's been in progress for quite a while. They support our Zen images out of the box just fine. There's just some tweaking you have to do to use their custom kernel and get the actual OpenSUSE kernel to run in their system. So we're trying to make deployment a lot easier, but you guys are seeing some of the things I'm showing off, but what can you really do with this? We did a contest recently called the Distros, and we gave away 20 grand in prizes. What we were looking for was the best corporate-based image that somebody could develop and the best completely open-source image. And these are our winners up here. I don't know, are you guys, any of you guys familiar with Brian Lunduke, the Illumination software creator? It's this goofy little desktop thing for creating software, but what you can do, this is kind of a quick screenshot here running live in Test Drive. Brian built an appliance that you could run his Illumination software creator live in. He's got a bunch of tutorials available on the desktop. And so this is a complete solution to try out his software. I'm sure he could talk about it better than I can. But the point was he provided a complete environment to run the software, nothing to install, everything ready to go, a lot of tutorials available on the desktop, good documentation, good assistance, all of those development targets were ready to go. And it's been a very popular appliance. And all of our guys love it. I don't know how your downloads have been, but everybody internally thinks it's just awesome.
We've distributed away from your website about 25,000 digital copies of it.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Ooh.
I like
That isn't what I meant to do. Presi's pretty cool.
I'm going to use Prezi from now on.
Except when you change your...
Completely off-topic question. How long did it take you to make the presentation?
2 hours-ish.
Oh, that took a while. So did you have to go add those barcodes yourself, the QR codes?
Yeah, I added the QR codes.
Boy,
But
you did those QR codes on the fly. That'd be
Could
impressive.
I think people might be interested in showing a live test drive.
I will show a live test drive. Let me get back to my spot here. Where was I? So, yeah, live test drive. Well, let me get over. So, Hypergrid to go. I'll get right to that. I just want to get off track or I'll completely lose track of where I was. The other one that won an award was Hypergrid to go. And what this is a boxed up appliance instance of Second Life compatible server. So you can launch your own server with this. You just need to put it up, fill out a few questions on the startup, and boom, you've launched your own Second Life compatible server with minimum number of clicks. And now you can deploy that out to EC2 or whatever and just get rocking and rolling in your own little fake world. So, and we are still planning to run the Distros contest again for 2011. So if you guys are excited about that, again, that was we gave about 20 grand cash on that contest, and we want to do it as many times as we can.
I thought I'd miss you guys in my next world, but I guess for 20 grand I might do it.
So what else can you do? Well, we have SUSEgallery.com. Now, once you've built your appliance, it's yours. You built your own appliance. It's all restricted to you. You can do whatever you want with it within certain limitations. But one of the things that you can do with it is share. And the sharing is something that we're really excited about and we've been trying to go crazy with. And so we started a second site called SUSEgallery.com. And what SUSE Gallery is letting you, let's see if we can get back to the home page here, is where people have shared the appliances they've built to allow others to download and clone them. And there's an open source element to this. We expect people to be able to, you can take any of these appliances and use them any way you want. They have to respect the restrictions that are on the distributions to begin with. But you can also clone these and use them as the foundation to build and work from on your own. So we're trying to create kind of a Lego block architecture where, say, you want to do a custom desktop. You don't have to start with the bare bones GNOME image. You could start with the current GNOME, or you can start with F. Crozet's GNOME 3 appliance, which is the official GNOME 3 image. So we try to give you a lot more flexibility there. There's this developer that works on it. His name is James Mason. He's a pretty cool guy, and he's been doing official versions of some of the desktops. So the live CDs for KDE and GNOME, you can also get virtual images for now. So you're not stuck with running the ISO and the slow performance. If you want to virtualize it, you can go ahead and pull down the OVF or the VMware image and rock that. Additionally, the full LXDE desktop for 11.4 is available. So if you wanted to build up a custom desktop, you probably want to start in Gallery and clone something that's a little more finished already, and then really make it your own. So, and we really encourage people to share. We try to make some nice tools, and we're going to continue to make the tools better for sharing it. I think the best tool that we can offer is that's a hosted service for you. So we run all the downloads. Ryan said you had something like 25,000 downloads.
Yeah, we showed some of them ourselves, but yeah.
Yeah. And that's about a gig a piece.
Yeah.
So that's a fair amount of bandwidth if you were trying to run it off your own internet service. So we'll cover that for you. We got the website up for you. We try to do a nice thing and feature who you are and your appliances. You put your own homepage on it, write your own release notes for it, and rock it from there. Of course, we do let people comment on it, so you might get negative comments if you don't do a great job, but that's pretty rare. Everyone's pretty enthusiastic about the projects. So let's go ahead and take a test drive here. This is something that we started with really early on. It was a tech concept, and it's kind of a simple thing on the back end, but the user experience is hard to get right. And what we wanted to do is say, you've built this image, we'll see what it looks like. So on the back end, we run a lot of KVM servers as well. And what we do is we take that image file at a click, push it out to the server, start it up, connect it up to a VNC port, and connect that to a Flash client in your browser. So that sounds kind of complicated, but what it boils down to is you click the test drive link, and depending on your bandwidth.
Conference bandwidth.
Who's paying for all this? How are they making money?
We sell the software as an internal toolkit for a ridiculously large amount of money. So for the IBMs and HPs and Intels of the world that want to create their images internally and not share them and not use an external tool, they can do so. And last time I checked, it was like a 6-figure price tag. So.
Maybe you have some takers.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, IBM. Thank you, HP. Thank you, Intel.
Oh, it looks like Flash is being blocked in here for some reason. So.
Oh, VNC ports are, yeah.
Okay. So.
It works great, yeah, in real life.
Well.
We're in the virtual world.
Right. Yeah.
So, but you can test drive your image. What I would encourage you to do, if you would like to see how that works better, is to come out to our booth. We have our kiosk set up, and we run the full server live in the box. This is more of the on-site product, basically. The idea is that instead of being spread out across a massive cluster, it's all in one contained box. Test drives work great on the kiosk. So come out to our booth. We're at 210. You can play with the studio software, build your own images, test drive it there, and we'll even let you burn disks and take it home with you if you want. So, yeah.
If we build one out there, will it propagate up to the normal system?
No, it will not. It's isolated.
As far as like images and uploading files, like is there a way to pull stuff from Flickr or some other third-party account?
You'd have to download it first at this point. Oh, no, I take that back. Yes, you can. You can upload files by URL, and we'll handle the download directly. So, yeah, we try to be pretty bandwidth sensitive. European bandwidth restrictions are a lot tighter than they are here in the US. And the availability is a lot smaller as well. So there's a lot of support for having the tools to do things out on the web.
And if you were to create like a custom repository for business or whatever, or not custom repository, custom build, is there a way to go, hey, I have all these packages, let's build me a repository that I can run internally? Because I know a lot of businesses are doing that, so they can control their own versions and whatnot.
We have tools. Well, there are some SUSE tools available for that, like SMT and the SUSE Manager. I'm not very experienced with them. The best solution I could offer you off the top of my head is to run your own build service instance internally, which there's an appliance for in the gallery.
Oh, you can run your own build service?
Oh yeah, the build service is completely open source.
That would be a way around that, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So I encourage you guys to head out to SUSEstudio.com or SUSEgallery.com and just give it a shot. Try it out. You might find that customizing Linux to make it exactly what you want is a lot easier than you ever thought. So, questions? Oh, come on, I got a lot of penguins here. Yes?
Why on earth can you guys build it in Ruby? I know you were going to give me a toy until I said that.
Because Haskell doesn't have a good web framework. Any other questions? You guys want to see any of the other configuration? There was some. Yes.
Is there like specific like digital photography distro or music editing distro kind of thing?
I don't know. Let's take a look.
I was actually really surprised by how many distros are in the SUSE gallery that are such
Yeah.
I mean, at least for me, I really
It's a lot of photography tools I could throw in a package. I just wanted
to be fair,
I mean,
the illumination software presentation, I created that initially. It took, I mean, to get the base distro going and get it all into 10 minutes. And then once maybe the packages you want, it's another 10 minutes. And then you find your stuff. What? I can't find it.
on SUSE Outlet, you don't have your package on I can't find it.
But it's so quickly to get it up and going with SUSE Studio that, like, if it's not what you want, it takes so little time. Like if you want to build like a home server, what's kind of nice about this, you throw in all your server packages, and you don't have to worry about, like, 2 years down the road, updating all your configurations or anything. Like, you just go change it to a new version.
one click.
And it's done. You've got a whole new version of the whole OS and everything.
That's a great point, Brian. I forgot to mention. Yeah, that was part of the kind of the custom desktop thing. But yeah, I hate upgrading, and I hate upgrades. Never work. I don't know about you, but for me, upgrades never work right. They never do exactly what I want. Something always ends up weird. It's just so much better to just start from scratch. But what we've done differently is say we're going to do the upgrade before you start from scratch. So we write custom scripts for every version of OpenSUSE and SUSE Linux Enterprise that map the differences and the changes. And we go through by hand and we work with the developers. It's nice to have all the OpenSUSE guys in the office so you can walk down the hall and say, why does this not work right? And we hand tune those upgrade paths. So when a new version releases, like 11.4, we supported it on release day, and we had the upgrade up, I think, a week later. You have a one-click upgrade. in Studio to upgrade to the new version. And that's going to upgrade all your packages to the new version, but maintain all of your customizations on top of it, and then build your fresh image from scratch. You don't have to worry about any of those weird interactions you get on the desktop trying to do the upgrades in place.
Very cool.
So, yes?
So if you wanted to build a light system, could you script things out and then what you wanted in, run it off like a USB or?
Oh yeah, you can. The raw disk images just go straight to USB. They work great on the USB.
This gets at what you were talking about this morning about kind of hiding the ugly part of packaging.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. Because I hate RPM as a package format. I mean, I've struggled with it a lot, and he's helped me walk through a lot of it. But honestly, if I can set up my entire system or the system I'm going to send to someone before I ever have to drop down to Yum or anything else, I don't need to really know that much.
If you're a niche distro maintainer, this is right up your alley because it does all the legwork for you.
I mean, if you think about it, like Linux Mint is based on Ubuntu. Really, you could build something based on OpenSUSE that does everything Linux Mint does and more in like an hour, which is kind of groovy.
And not have to pay to host it.
Everything. Seriously, you can become like one of the top 10 things on DistroWatch, and they probably love it because it's free press. Good luck.
Well, there you go. There's one right there.
There's one right there. Still featured after all this time.
Upstream
About 5 months now.
Yeah.
You'll be around for what, a year before DistroWatch pays attention?
Yes, that email.
Or you gotta get a minute? I actually think that's if they use Schmidt and go.
So yeah, and this kind of gives you an idea what we're dealing with. 4,800 builds this week, last 7 days. There's over 5,000 images on the gallery. We've got about 120,000 users running hot. So there's plenty of resources there. We don't go down ever.
Other than the six figures you get if you sell a copy of it, what does SUSE get out of it? What, I mean, from an
Well, no,
from a collaboration, from an innovation standpoint, is that what you're doing on the back end? What are you gleaning?
well, for us, our team is a really eclectic team. There's about 20 people on the studio development team, and we're not. I would say half of us are actually focused on developing Studio. Marcus Schaefer, who is the lead for Kiwi development, is in our team. So he's actually maintaining Kiwi and making the improvements on Kiwi, and we work regularly with him. So, I mean, it's kind of like one of our pain points, but like every time we deploy every week, we have to upgrade Kiwi because there's some new feature that we wanted to do that he needed to support, you know, and make sure Kiwi works right across all the different versions. Alex Graff, who is a primary developer on KVM and some of the other kernel-based virtualization modules. He's a member of our team. So he's working really aggressively on standardizing virtualization, getting virtualization tools in really good order. And I mean, we want to do, if you go out to the studio, you'll see that you launch the test drive. It takes less than 2 seconds to go from clicking the button to where you're seeing the boot screen. And a lot of that is Alex's work in, you know, hardcore I/O management improvements and the formatting. I don't know, he starts talking about QCOWs and KVM paths and I/O things, and I don't even know what he's talking about. But he's into fast and he's into stable, so he's doing a lot of contribution there on the kernel. So we've got a lot of these cross-disciplinary things where people are coming in and we're using Studio as a tool to drive increased usability, increased compatibility across the whole tool chain. And again, you know, we'll go down and if we don't have a good upgrade path, when we want to do our merge, some guys will walk down the hall to the OpenSUSE PMs and say, this is not right, we need to fix this. You know, and that usually happens in the RC stage. We went around with that a fair bit on this version to get everything right. So they're getting more feedback from us because we want our process to work well, and that helps the studio process work. That helps the whole OpenSUSE process work well. So it's a collaborative thing, and more than anything, we're just trying to create an environment where doing your own thing with Linux is easy. Yeah.
Can you submit a custom hardware profile against your build? Yeah. So
No.
I want to build something that's going to work on this box. Can I feed the specs of the box in?
No, you can't.
Not yet. Not yet.
No, not yet.
But, I mean, if there are custom, pieces of the box that requires drivers or scripts to function properly, you can include that all within your...
And those are becoming just less and less. I mean, it's like I bought a new webcam because I finally got sick of playing with my old webcam, and they're all like UVC now. So there isn't... I mean, that used to be one of the big pain points was webcams. It was a total headache. And now they're all UVC. There's not even a driver anymore. It's just a built-in module in the kernel. You plug it in, and boom, done. There's nothing for it. I've got a Epson RX 580 combo printer at home, which is one of those weird scanner printer monstrosities, And my wife still runs Windows XP. Don't. It's not my fault, But she goes to when we do a clean install on her laptop, there's like 14 programs you got to install to get the thing working right. I plug in the USB cable and there's a little network pop up that says, "Is that an Epson Stylus Color Photo RS 580?" And I say yes, and it says, "Okay, done. And here's your scanner too." I mean, it's just gotten so much better, and I think a lot of us are still hung up on the drivers suck. But it's gotten better, and it's getting better and better. And I really wish Greg was going to be here for his discussion tomorrow, because he's been pushing that so hard, and he's so adamant about it. And it's just a matter of getting the hardware companies to step up and say, "Here, do it."
Greg will write the drivers for him for free. All I got to do
Yep.
is find a piece of hardware. Engineering specs.
So. Okay, so that's all. Thank you guys. And I really have a ton of these, so if anybody wants one, raise your hand and say, "I want one." And I'm a really bad shot. I apologize. I was trying to hit you.